So let's get a better understanding of how social media and influencers are changing markets and investing. Joining me now is Brian Jung, a personal finance and credit card YouTuber. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So obviously there's a lot of information out there. So how should people who are new to this, how should they be relying on this information from social media stock influencers?
Yeah, so there definitely is a lot of information out on the web. We're living in this completely new generation where we're seeing influencers talk about money, which was a pretty much taboo subject before in the past. We're now seeing the involvement of other creators getting in, and this really requires the audience to do their research. Before taking advice from anyone, you have to know who you're getting it from, what their background is, and if they really know what they're talking about.
So when people see perhaps a quick TikTok giving out advice or an influencer that they already trust, what are some of the questions people should be asking themselves before sort of rushing out and setting up an account and sort of buying all these stocks?
Yeah, I think it's really important to ask yourself, what's their background? Do they have any affiliation with any of these companies, any of these stocks? As you know, we're early on, meaning the regulation, it isn't strict. We're not seeing clear-cut answers. So as a viewer, you want to know exactly who you're listening to.
So with that being said then, who are the biggest names in this space right now?
Well, if we're talking about YouTube, there are definitely a lot of finance creators. Within the top three, aside from major network channels that are obviously trying to expand their presence, we have a number of other creators. I know in the personal finance space, Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin, and a handful of others have been dominating the space in terms of just bringing more awareness and education from the financial standpoint.
Now, obviously, a lot of these apps and things already have advice on there, but then you're also having these influencers. What do influencers offer that perhaps some of these traditional places don't?
Yeah, so what's really interesting about influencers is that you can add a bit of your own perspective onto whatever topic you're talking about. So if I want to specify, if I have a certain way of researching different companies, maybe I'm more of a technical analyst, maybe I like looking up different economic moats that a specific company may have, or maybe there are just some fundamental analysis that I prefer to do, you can find your own creator, see what your personality is. If they are more of a traditional investor and you happen to be one too, then when you see the stars align, that's where you can really act. I think what's really great about choosing who to watch as an influencer is you can specifically just pick who aligns with the way you invest and what their strategy in researching and bringing you that information is.
And that's certainly different from, say, seeing, as we heard in that package, they're seeing something like GameStop and saying, you know, should I hop on that? And we did see these swings from these so-called meme stocks in the markets. How are influencers impacting markets and market trades now?
Well, that's a really great question. So AMC, GME, the entire stock liftoff that we saw happen earlier last year, I actually was one of the first channels that represented and started streaming that moment. And that's where I started to see real data on what Robinhood was seeing. They were one of my affiliates, and what we were seeing in terms of the movement of the price. I think it is really, really important right now for everyone to be aware of what we're seeing in terms of the transition with social media, finance influencers, and what is happening in the market. When we saw AMC and GME going up in price, obviously there was that correlation. The more and more people that heard about it, that told their neighbor, their family, their friends, the more we began to see the price of this starting to increase. When you have millions of people trying to invest into a single asset, naturally that does drive the price of it up.
So then for influencers like yourself, how lucrative is posting this advice on YouTube and other social channels?
Well, let me tell you this, when it comes to advice itself, it's not going to make you money there. So in terms of making money and being able to monetize just pure advice, it comes down to a few different things. So monetization as an influencer, you have many different avenues. Some channels may have only 1,000 subscribers, some may have millions. It depends on how many views you're getting, how likely your audience is to follow some of the apps that you may be using, what that affiliate commission could look like. So it's really all over the board. I do know that on the higher end, creators are able to make tens of millions of dollars within a year. On the lower end, they can't even make more than a couple $1,000s per month, let alone even a couple $100s per month, depending on where they are as a creator.
So then, just very quickly then, in terms of regulation from the government, whether it's here or abroad, where does it stand and do you think it's needed?
Yeah, so I personally think regulation is going to be important in the space. Right now, even on the YouTube side of things, many creators just tend to just leave a description or a quick disclaimer of, I'm not a financial advisor, don't sue me, just to keep that legality, to keep that disclaimer so they can stay a bit protected. But the reason why we are forced to do that, or other creators are doing that more often, is because there isn't much regulation. We're lucky enough right now that there are creators who have had a decent moral compass. But if you had, say, a whole wave of creators that weren't like that, that didn't care about their audience, we could be seeing some pretty nasty behavior, pump and dumps, audiences and investors, newer people getting into the market and completely losing their money. I think regulation is going to be really important in this space, and I'm just curious to see what the government is going to do about it.
Well, hopefully everyone does their homework. Great having you on. Brian Jung there, a personal finance and credit card YouTuber.
Thank you.